Morning team. Just want to make a quick video about a philosophy that I have and that I've taught a number of you. If a client calls you, you've failed. Similarly, if a manager needs to call you to follow you up on something, you've failed. Now that's not 100% true, but I'd like you to take it as 95% true. If you're, from a construction point of view, if you're running a project, a foreman books you in, someone in the office books you in. When you're on site today, Friday morning, you're doing grids on a deck or grids on a slab or something similar. When you're finished, the question you ask is, when do you need me next? Now you've probably got a pretty good idea anyway, I would like to think, but ask the foreman, the leading hand, hey, when are you going to pour this? Oh mate, we're going to pour on Tuesday. And roughly when are you doing it? First thing in the morning, you're doing it in lunchtime, the end of the day. And if they're doing it in the morning, you can probably get on the slab in the afternoon. So you then can say to him, so you'll probably, if it is in the morning, you probably need me Tuesday afternoon, is that right? Yeah mate, cool. Now, depending on your history with that project, do they usually keep to program? Does it rain on Sunday? Probably doesn't affect things. Does it rain on Monday? Was it windy on Monday? Things affected. Send a text message to the client on the Monday afternoon. Are you still pouring? Monday morning. Are you still pouring Tuesday morning? And I can do the set out on the Tuesday afternoon. He texts you back, yes, or no mate, there's been a delay, or he gives you a call, or give him a call and have a bit of a joke around with him or whatever. Similarly with in the cadastral team, when's the job due? Now I do not care if you're Alex in Melbourne and you're the surveyor and you're not across. You didn't know. Similarly, if you're a Leo or a Bruce, I do not care. You've got to ask the question, when is it due? Okay? That'll be another topic of conversation that I'll do. It's called managing upwards. Okay? Managing your manager. You need to know when it's due. What if it's due in 2 weeks' time and you're having trouble doing some of the boundary definition work or the drafting? Let the client know. If it's going to be late, that's most cases okay. Just let them know. Once again, if the client, back to my philosophy, if the client rings you, and okay, if you're an Alex or Leo or a Bruce type person, the client's not going to ring you. They're going to ring a Chris Gill. They're going to ring Richo or Will or Bill. So if the client rings us, we've failed. So it's not specifically, one of you guys. It's us as a team. But if us as a team fail, you as a team fail, that's still a fail for you. The residential team, generally you guys are, George is very good at this. You guys are usually on top of this. If anything, we've got to tell George to slow down and not do things in a 3-day turnaround, not a 5 or a 10-day turnaround as we guarantee. And so the message for you guys, the Frankies and the Daves of the world and Shawnees and Ryans and even the Timmies and whatnot is once again, understand when it is due. And what happens is you then take that pressure off a George or a Brandon or a Mark, and even a Chris Gill. You take that pressure off them to have to remember every time. You're doing a survey, you've got to know when is it due. Now, this may mean that you need to ask, you need to chip somebody, hey, listen, when you do the Workflow Max, when you set it up in Workflow Max, actually set a due date, please. Most of the due dates I don't think we necessarily use. There's a due date option in Workflow Max. It's usually the same day that we start it. And that may be something you need to say, and maybe Alina needs to do it, someone like Alina, when she's setting up the jobs. But once again, if you don't know, then your leader needs to know, your leader needs to remind you, but no, you as the surveyor, ask the question so that if we are running late, you might then send a message to the client, or get Alina to send a message to the client, or Brandon or Mark or Chris Gill. Hey, send a message to the client, this job's going to run late. Once again, if we don't, then the client's ringing us saying, hey, where is it? And if a client rings us to get an update, we've failed. You know, I had a conversation with a client yesterday about they're a property development company that's got farms all over country, New South Wales, you know, commercial properties through Sydney. Their father had set up a bit of an empire, to tell you the truth, and it's kind of like the kids are 40 and 45 years old, and they're stepping into the business to kind of manage it and hopefully grow it. They've been using RealServe for a lot of their commercial properties, and they said they're just disgraceful. What they produce, they said, is 10 out of 10, but it is never produced when you want it to be produced. We actually have to manage them. They'll give us a turnaround time of 3 weeks, and I'll ring them up after 2 weeks, and they still haven't started the job, and nobody knows where the job's at. They said that they've had this happening for the last 6 to 12 months. Now, I know the stuff that RealServe do is pretty bloody good. They've admitted the stuff that RealServe do is pretty bloody good. But the project management and the communication with the client's got to ring them. Fail. 10 out of 10 for your survey work and your technical survey, 10 out of 10, well done. And yes, the client does come back a little bit, as they've done for the last 6 to 12 months, but they're done. Like their patience is gone. Will never return to RealServe. So, and this is where it's a team exercise, because generally surveyors are technical people. And so then I've got these blinkers that they're technical people and we've got to be technically correct. Well, welcome to a prime example of we're technically correct, we've lost a client. So the long-term viability of being technically correct all the time is not possible. At the same time, it's teamwork, because you can't just be, and in the case of George, 10 out of 10 customer service, but George breaks down in some of his technical abilities. So he needs people like, you know, like Jeff Gallen and Richo and Bill and Shawnee and even Frankie and Dave to kind of, to give some of the technical advice and perspective to keep him on track. And this is why I'm doing this video, because sometimes it's our leaders that fall down in creating an environment where the client doesn't call us back. The client has to call us, and thus we fail. And it even goes for the admin people, or if you're doing a task for a manager, the person who gave you that task, let them know where it's at. Somebody gives you something to do. Hey, can you fix up these workers' executed plans? Hey, you know, Jacob, Avilio, Diane, maybe a Kylie, a Daniel, an Alina. You know, you get given a task to do. Hey, can you do this for me? Don't send it to the person 2 days before it's due. Let them roughly know how you're going over the next 3 days of doing that job, or the next week, or the next 3 weeks. Let them roughly know where you're at. If the manager needs to call you, you failed. Because what happens is you create, and we've done this video before, there's eustress, which is positive stress, and there's distress. If a manager has to call you, you're creating stress for him. You've created it because he's got to remember to check where you're up to. Ouch. Add that on to another 100 things you need to remember. Now, there's not actually distress created for you. There's actually eustress created for you because you've created a happy manager if you've advised him. You've given me this task and I've advised the manager that I'm halfway through his time frame or her time frame and I'm only a quarter of the way through the job. But I'm still going to get this done, but hey, I'm just letting you know. Or hey, I might run a day or two over or late on this. What happens is they go, oh wow, thank you for letting me know. And they're thinking also, oh wow, how cool is this? I didn't need to chase them up. You're going to get that positive energy back. But if you don't make that phone call and you don't advise, and the manager's got to call you, what's the manager going to think about you and feel about you? Is that going to increase his confidence in dealing with you? Not at all. So you've created distress for him. So then when somebody else, when you have a manager that is thinking, or a leader that's thinking that he can't trust you, he's got to follow you up all the time, is that positive stress for you or negative stress? It's negative stress. It's distress. You're in a state of distress. So we've created two environments of distress. Who the fuck wants to live there? That's not an environment we want to live in. And so the same thing with, and just tying it back to, you know, developer clients and construction clients, when it comes to a Gary or a Chris type person having an interview, doing an interview to win the next job, or it's an easy, oh wow, yeah, we'll get you guys back on board. How good's the guy on the ground? He rings us and he organises us. Wow, if only all of our other subcontractors could be like that. And even in the specific example of just it on site, when you turn up and you see that foreman that you're organising, he's like, oh, awesome, you organise, oh wow, hey buddy, how you going? It's not and it might not be a distressful situation in the sense that he's used to having to organise everybody, but you've lost the opportunity to create eustress, positive stress, in the sense that that's one less phone call I need to make out of my 100 phone calls a day. All right, thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.